I think just being more bold about just going up to people and saying, hey, can I pray for you? Or do you know Jesus? Like, that's something we would ask frequently to people is, do you have a relationship with God? And if they said no, we would just, okay, there's our opportunity. We explain the whole thing to them, and then they hear it and they're like, oh yeah, wait, I want to have that. And that's how people were getting saved on this trip, was just like simple, just having these conversations with them and being bold enough to just go up and start the conversation and see where that person was at.
Welcome to the More and Better podcast. It's our prayer to help equip followers of Jesus and make more and better disciples of Christ. My name is Winter. I'm joined by some of the group that just went to a mission trip to Peru. I am here with Pastor Clarence, a couple of students, actually a student who just graduated, Mason Adams. Hello.
Hello.
Also here have Kylie, a senior.
Hello.
So what's up, guys?
I didn't know we were supposed to say hey.
It's okay.
Hello. It's going good. I'm excited to be here. A little nervous, but, you know.
It's going to be great. So we're honestly just want to get an opportunity to talk to you guys just about mission, specifically your trip that you all just went to. You just got back a little over a week ago from Peru. Where were you at in Peru?
Iquitos.
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 I love it. I love mission trips. Is this all of your first mission trip that you all got to go on?
This is my second.
This is my first.
That was my first as well.
That's awesome. I've gone to a couple of mission trips when I, throughout ministry school and then even through here at Harvest Time, gone to a few different places. And so we're excited to hear about you all's experience. I've gone to places like stateside mission trips, but also I've gone to places like Belize and Honduras. Never been to Peru, though. So just kind of give us a little bit of a rundown. Like, what was it like at your mission trip? Anyone feel free to jump in and just tell us a little bit about your trip.
It was really like culture shock, I guess, would be the best way to describe it, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Just because you walk into like some of those places and it's just like, dang, like people like actually live like that. And you see that on TV, like you see that, but like it's not real. And then you see it and you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's like people actually live like on the ground, like they sleep on the ground and their house is like barely standing. And so, yeah.
Yeah, kind of paint us a picture. Like, what is it like? Because even you're saying like culture shock. Like, paint us a picture. What does it look like in the areas that you guys went to?
I think one of the coolest things about it, and this is on more of a positive note, but the way that they all ride around on these little motor cars to go everywhere, I love that. That was the first thing I noticed when we got there. I was like, what the heck? Everybody has one of these. I was like, I want one. But that was one thing that was really cool. And also everybody like just drives however they want. Like nobody actually, there's no like rules. Like everybody just gets in each other's lane and jumps in front of each other and stuff. It was pretty wild, but that I guess was one thing about it that was very different. You also see a lot of people like selling like fruits and vegetables just like on the side of the road, and lots of like stray dogs, chickens pecking their heads around everywhere. Like it's definitely very different, and but also something that I was also surprised about. I think I prepared myself for it to be a lot less civilized than it actually was. And obviously it's not as civilized as we are here in the United States. It's very, very different and a lot poorer than we are. But I think we all have this image in our heads of like the worst of the worst things that you could ever see. Like everybody's just living on the streets and starving. And like you do see some of that, but also they got their little motor cars. They've got, AC in some places. It's not as civilized as the United States, but I think that was another thing that I was shocked about, because when you're going to go on a trip like this, you prepare yourself to see those really dark places, and you do, but you also can kind of see the other side of it as well. So
it's a little bit like both of what you're saying. It's a little bit of there's like these people are different. They live differently than us, but also like they're people.
Yeah.
Like they're still
exactly.
functioning. They're part of. They have their own society, their own type of things.
Yeah, I will say like some places like it kind of looked like downtown Fort Smith. It was just kind of like
Did
it
that
was
surprise you too?
like it was civilized like it, and I was like, oh, this is like a really nice restaurant.
I think the thing that shocked me the most too, even, was like getting there, and like you got, there's city and motorbikes everywhere, and you're like, oh, this is crazy. And then like you take a turn somewhere, and then you're just in like slums,
Yeah.
and you see houses that are like built up and literally just the floor is wood, and you're just like, where am I? And then you take another turn, and there's the jungle, and you're like, oh my gosh, where am I right now?
The
Like,
literal jungle.
yes.
Yeah.
So that was also just a culture shock. It's like we were right by the jungle the whole entire time right there. And then you just have these different people living there, people from the jungle, and then you got people actually in the city that live there, but it's just all types of people living in this one little town.
Yeah.
Yeah, even before you guys got to Iquitos, you were in Lima, so you got to spend a little even time in even like a city. So it's like, yes, you're in a different country. Yes, you're in South America, but you're like, oh, it's city vibes.
Yeah. Lima definitely was a city vibe. We got off the plane, went outside for a little bit, and we were like, oh, wow, it feels great here. Because it's by the coast, I guess.
Kind of looked like Tulsa.
Kind of looked like Tulsa, yeah. We knew what this is. And then we dropped in Iquitos, and I started sweating immediately from the humidity. So.
Well, tell me a little bit about like what type of work, like what were you actually doing there in Peru?
Well, one of the things we did was dug wells for some families. I believe we dug 4 wells entirely with our crew, split off into teams for 2 days. And then we also did
That's awesome.
Medical and dental needs that we went to a church and just helped out the people there that just showed up, and we just helped them, give them medicine, give them glasses even, and some dental work if they needed it for that. So that was one of the things we did while we were
You
there.
did dental work?
No, they put me on digging the wells, the guns, they needed them.
Oh, interesting. What kind of work, this is an honest question, that you have to do like when you're digging a well? Like what does that process look like?
So really, they do all the technical work. They had some workers that are there that help out with the technical, because I've never done a well in my life.
That's
so,
what I was wondering.
But they walk you through the whole process. So you're doing everything with them. So you're not just standing there watching them do it. So like they would, have the stuff ready to be like, all right, here we go. And maybe not in English, but, and then we start just digging. And there's just a pipe right here, and there's a huge pole, and you just twist. You're just twisting the whole entire time,
Into the
digging
ground.
down, straight into the ground. And honestly, great workout.
I think me and Matt and Caleb figured out that it was like 36 feet or something like that into the ground.
the whole way, though.
Yeah. Like 5 of those poles was like
Yeah.
35, 36 feet.
So we'd have to
dug
keep
in the
switching
ground.
poles to go down. And,
Yeah.
and so you do that, and then you have to go build like your own filter, basically. Then you put the filter in there, and then you make a makeshift little pump, and then that goes on top, and boom, water starts coming out of there. Fresh water.
I loved it. Like literally part of our heart, like at harvest time and being in Peru, part of our mission's heart is to like provide people with like fresh, clean water.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy that we're like, oh yeah, you guys got to like sit here and drill and dig all these many feet, but it's like it literally changed these families' lives.
Well, it's also cool. Pastor Darren was even telling us too, is like, because we were building wells at some of the people's, like the pastor's house or the worship pastor or someone on the team at the church. But it's like also for people that went to the church, they'd be like, hey, come over to my house. And there's a reason for them to come to their house and have the community there and build a relationship because they got water. So even that is just so beautiful, just hearing that.
How wild, something that we have water sitting here at the table,
Right,
but it's
right.
like they're able to use a resource like clean water as almost like a, hey, here's a community building.
Right.
Like discipleship.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah.
It's not just hey, come, we got pizza. It's like, hey, we got water. Like, it was really awesome to see
That's
that.
awesome.
That is culture shock.
Right.
That is
Yeah, for sure.
pizza instead of water. That is culture shock. That is.
Kylie, tell me a little bit more about some other things that you all did on the trip. Like what other kind of work were you doing?
One of my favorite things, so I didn't really do a whole lot with the wells, I might have helped a little bit there at the end, but my favorite thing that we did was we went door to door with bags for people that just needed supplies and food and things that we always will take for granted. Like we just got noodles and rice and like pencils, notepads, just very simple things that people really need over there. And so when we go door to door, with these things, we just hand them a bag. Like, we're from Harvest Time, we're on a mission trip, and we also would say, like, how can we pray for you today? And, or do you know Jesus? Like, do you want to learn about Jesus? And that instantly opens up an opportunity for you to share the gospel with somebody. And that was my favorite thing, because it also just reminded me of how simple the gospel really is and how easy it is to go to somebody and give them a bag of food, especially there because it's so needed, and say, like, hey, how can I pray for you? And that's ministry right there. That's what you came to do. You came all this way, 3,000, like 500 miles or whatever it is, and you're handing people a bag and just saying, how can I pray for you? And the impact that that actually made on those people, and also just on me, just reminding me, I felt like God was just reminding me, like, this is all it takes. It's really simple. You just take this bag to somebody and say, hey, how can I pray for you? Or even you can take that back here and just ask somebody, how can I pray for you during church or at school or whatever it is. And it reminded me how simple it is, and how, like, God is so simple that way too. Like, you just take it and you go with it, and people always will have something that they need prayer for. So that was my favorite thing that we did, just because it really reminded me, like, how simple the gospel actually is, and also gave me a lot more confidence that, like, we can take this back home. We can just ask somebody, like, hey, is there anything you need prayer for? Like, it's not weird. Some people are, like, waiting and begging God for somebody to just come and help them or come and ask them, and that can really touch somebody. So that was my favorite thing, I think, that we did while we were there.
Even you saying that reminded me, like, that's something that I wanted to bring up, is that a lot of times that's what people are, like, waiting for and looking for. When I went to Belize, I remember going to the villages that's like, you all went to the similar ones, Clarence, on your trip, that's really very remote. And some people, they're just waiting, like, they just need some type of hope. And so, yes, sometimes it is an act of a supply, like something that can eat or something that can help them with cooking or cleaning or whatever. But sometimes it's just letting someone know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Like, we all need that too. And so you're right. Like, those are things that we can bring back. And it's overwhelming when you just ask someone, like, is there something I can pray with you about? And then seeing, like, they're, like, just that breath of fresh air that they've been desperately waiting for and needing. Talk to me a little bit about any type of programs or services you guys got to be a part of. I know you did a lot of the park ministry. I want to hear maybe even what was your expectations going through that. I remember when I went to Honduras, having to do like those evangelistic park things. It can be so intimidating because all these people are just looking at you and talking with an interpreter. So talk to me a little bit about that.
I don't think I like realized how weird or different like that program definitely like was like because it wasn't like like done for us. Like it was done for them, and it's a whole different culture, a whole different place, and a whole different like interests and ways to reach them. So it was super different. And I didn't like get that until we got back here, and we did it for our youth, and that was super interesting to see because I knew it was going to impact people there, but I didn't realize how different it was like for people here. But then at the same time, like it's weird to people here, like how we do it, but it still gives the same message.
Yep. It's the same gospel too.
Yeah.
I think even over there too, just doing it like the very first night, like we took a 2-hour, 3-hour nap right after the plane to get some energy back after 24 hours of travel.
4-hour nap?
Something like that. I might have snuck in a little longer.
It was really long.
It was a nice nap though.
Nice.
Yes.
And then we ate dinner, and they're like, all right, we're going to a park. And we're like, all right, let's do this. Yeah. We're nervous. We're hype. We're ready to go. And when you get there, you just got to go. And that's essentially what it is. And just seeing, like, you know, these two, but also other students just going full in. They're like, this is the first time we're doing this in front of other people besides ourselves during practice and everything. This is the first time for public. Like, they didn't expect. I was talking to a couple of them the first night. They were like, I was so shocked how many people actually stood around and just watched us. Like, and I was like, that's what it is. Like, they're interested. You guys are attracting them, and that's what the gospel is, you know? Mm-hmm. That's being the salt of the earth. Like, you're attracting them. Like, they want that. And so they're just watching you guys. And then at the end, they're telling their testimonies and then ask for prayer. And then You know, I've seen it before happen and works. You know, you ask them for prayer, but just seeing their faces, like, oh my gosh, there's actually people that want prayer here at this random park tonight. Like, just their faces, and they were just ready to go. So it was really special to see that happen, especially for the first night, because that gave them the confidence and gave me the confidence even too. Just be like, all right, we're going to do something here.
Like, we're on mission.
We're on a mission. Yeah.
That's so cool. Just a little bit of context for. I know we keep saying like this program, and I just realized people listening have no idea. They have no concept or context of what we're talking about. But when as harvest time, when we go out on the missions field, our teams are always practicing. I mean, for what, months before you guys even left, and we prepare a whole program with like dancing, testimony, honestly, a couple of funny skits.
Yep.
Did you guys do?
We did.
funny?
Yeah, we did.
We did. We did the chicken skit.
Oh, you did
yeah,
the
two
chicken
funny
skit.
skits. Yeah.
Yes.
Chicken skit, the heart skit.
And then the serious
and there's
drama.
like a drama.
Yeah.
If you're listening and you kind of grew up in church, you may be familiar with like the human video type of things that we used to do back in the day, and that's what we do even out on the missions field. But you incorporating music and skits, whether it's for kids, like it's funny, or even for adults, like it can really speak to them. But even having an opportunity for students or adults to give their testimony, like that's powerful. Did you guys have a moment where you were like, oh, I cannot believe someone, like what I said is like affecting somebody on these?
I definitely had a moment like that. It was actually our first night that we went to the park, and we did the whole program. So we danced, and then just seeing, like he was talking about, all the people that actually just stood around and watched us dance, I was like, what the heck? Because you go into it and you're like, they might be like a few people, like, but it was like, we had a pretty good crowd. I was like, oh, this is how this works. Like, people are actually showing up. But it was after we had done the drama, and I noticed there was like a middle-aged woman. She was just over there crying, and Clarence gave a really great close that night, and we went off and we just prayed for people. And I went over there with an interpreter, and this girl was basically just saying to us, she was like, I needed that. Like, I needed to see that drama that you guys did. And it was crazy to me because when we practiced it, sometimes we get kind of weird feeling about it, like, oh, this seems funny, or people are going to laugh or whatever. But this girl was like very impacted by it, and she said that she just has been felt like she's drowning, like she just wanted to end it all, and that it gave her just like a little bit of hope, and was saying like, you guys just showed up out of the blue, and I want to give my life back to Christ, like I want to rededicate my life.
Wow.
And it was just that moment, and that was the very first night we were there. I was like, oh wow, like this actually has a huge impact on people, just hearing somebody's testimony, or watching a skit, or hearing a closing, like just a quick verse and a close, a 2-minute ending to the program. It really impacted somebody just to see that. And so I think that moment for me was like, it like clicked in my head, like, oh, this works. Like, people are seeing this, and it's actually having an impact on them, especially when you show up to some place like just randomly out of the blue and do something like that. People gather around and they listen. And I thought that was just a really, really cool moment that kind of got me in gear to like go through the rest of the trip.
I love that. I think even practically too, you got to remember, like, you guys are a bunch of, how many were there, like 20 of you?
19.
20 of you. Americans walking into a park with all these Peruvians playing this music. Yeah, but then it's so like, yes, the music may be like, what's going on over here? But like the words, the drama, even the skits. Something that I love, even the messaging of those skits of, you know, giving your heart to God, or giving it to the world or to people, and then what does it mean to even be a follower of Christ?
Right.
Because just like maybe for us here in America, we have a culture of just going to church, I'm a good person, checking the check boxes. Like, people have that same thing too, of like, what does it mean to actually be a follower of Jesus? What are some, maybe outside of that first night, what were some other instances of some different parks that you guys got to go to?
We didn't just stay at parks. We went to some plazas as well,
Oh,
which
some
I think
city
are
centers?
I think are the same exact thing. It's just a different word.
I think technically it's like
He's
city
like,
center.
we didn't go to a park, we went to a plaza.
Like,
Isn't technically a plaza a city center?
Essentially, yeah.
PD kept
I feel like
making
in
it
the
seem
One of the
like it was
places-
But I
different.
feel like the Spanish word
Yes.
for park and plaza are different. And I want to say,
I don't know.
I don't know.
PD
I don't
made
know.
it seem like they were different, so I don't
took 2
know.
years.
Anyways, it was my first mission trip, so I don't know the difference. Anyways,
Oh, you got one?
oh, do you have one?
I do, but you go first.
Oh, okay. Well, there was on the last night that we went to a plaza. I know that we went to a plaza because PD went with us,
Oh, okay.
and he was very eminent that it was a plaza. But but there was a little kid there, and he said, and me and another guy were praying for him, and he was basically telling us that he like got kicked out of his home, and like they don't even live in Iquitos, but now but he found us at this plaza, and his father had sent him away from his house to go find something better, to experience life change, were his words. And so right before that he had accepted Jesus into his heart. And so me and the other guy that were praying for him, we were just kind of looking at each other like, whoa, like that's wild. We really just got used like that for like by God. Like
That's awesome.
So
The one I had wasn't at a park or a plaza. It was actually it was actually the Church of Harvest Time that we actually have down there, and we help out with everything there. But they had a youth night on a Monday night, and it was like, I guess like a youth conference for all of their churches around, just to come there for one night. And I didn't know what to expect because that day was rainy, and it was a Monday night. So I was like, who goes to church on a Monday night, you know? And so,
And in the rain, because here.
even in the rain. So in the rain, like she said, there are motorbikes everywhere. So if it's raining, they're inside. Like they don't do anything.
Yeah.
Like they have nothing to do. So I was even talking to one of the interpreters, and he was like, yeah, I don't know what to expect tonight either. And I was like, well, God's going to do something. Regardless if there's people there or not, we're going to have church. And so we got there, and immediately I'm like, oh, it's crazy in there. And we walk in, and next thing I know, we're worshiping for 2 hours. Easy 2 hours, but it's not just like, we're just worshiping, they're just singing, and we have our hands up. No, like they are dancing the whole time to it, like going crazy in there. And our team, I even told them, I was like, hey guys, take tonight off, because we didn't do any program or anything. Like we were just like, hey, let's, we'll pray for people here, but like enjoy tonight, like worship God, like listen to the message, just pray for people, And so they did. They worshiped, and we were sweating, worshiping God the whole 2 hours, and then it was just really cool because I got to do a little message, 15-minute message, and it was just basically like, hey, stop hiding from God. Like, start going out into the world, basically. And I was just telling my story. Like, that's all it was, just telling my story. And we did a little altar call, and before I could even count down, people already just coming down, broken, ready for prayer, sobbing, like just there. And I'm just like, man, like it was so beautiful, because we think about next gen, and we're like, our minds just think of America and like the next gen here, but like next gen's this whole world. Like just seeing the youth of Peru just go all in for God. And I'm just like, man, it honestly was inspiring for me, because I was like, man, God really is moving here, and you're moving everywhere, Like those are the next people that are going to be coming up into Peru, and who knows, like they could change everything there for them. So that night was really special. It was just really cool to see the youth of Peru worshiping and going all in for God, just the same way they do here every Wednesday night. So.
Yeah, it reminds you too that it's like, oh, like God's the same. Like it's not,
Everywhere.
God's just not an American Western God.
Right.
Like it's God is here to save. Like He sent us on a mission to save the world.
Yeah.
To truly make them more and better disciples. It's
Yeah.
not just here in the River Valley at Harvest Time Church in Arkansas, but also in Peru, in the whole world.
Everywhere. It's just beautiful to watch that and just to see that.
Yeah.
Because they deal with the same things we do. And they just, want to break through and be with God and build that relationship.
Yeah, and like even seeing like a move of God, it's like, oh wait, no, like this is for real.
Yeah.
But like the hunger and the desire to see God move is powerful. I love even the times of people sharing their testimony. You said that you got to share a little bit of just even your story.
Yeah.
Like even in the message that you were able to give. And I think it's really powerful, because I think sometimes we think, oh, what is my story going to speak to someone in a different country?
Right.
Like, what I have to say, is it really relevant to people?
Right.
That was my experience on the missions field. I'm like, my struggles or my story, this isn't going to translate. I remember thinking that, and then going to a school service and then meeting these girls and like, no, that's me. I've heard so many of you all who went on the trip who were able to have connections with people that would talk to them later and be like, oh no, I resonate with that story. Like that speaks to me. What about even some things that are about like, okay, I had this moment, I had this experience, I saw life change happen. Like what were you able to bring back with you? Like back to America?
Honestly, just like fire. I just want more, I guess, if that makes sense. Like I want to do more, not like I want more, but I want to like do more. I don't want to like I want to bring that same energy to like HT as a whole, not just YTH, but like YTH obviously, but like just HT is like a whole, because there was like at HT Peru there was a whole different like energy in YTH, and it was just crazy. And I want to bring that here to where we can worship just like that.
That's awesome.
I would say that one thing that I wanted to bring back, and I feel like I am like still kind of figuring out, okay, what does this look like in America? But the way that it was so simple to just go knock on doors and pray for people. And I know that really you can't do that the exact same way. People wouldn't respond the same way if I just knocked on their door and was like, here's a bag of food. They'd be like, I don't need that. But also at the same time, it's just remembering that people here like need that prayer as well. And I think just being more bold about just going up to people and saying, hey, can I pray for you? Or do you know Jesus? Like that's something we would ask frequently to people is, do you have a relationship with God? And if they said no, we would just, okay, there's our opportunity. We explain the whole thing to them, and then they hear it, and they're like, oh, yeah, wait, I want to have that. And that's how people were getting saved on this trip, was just like simple, just having these conversations with them and being bold enough to just go up and start the conversation and see where that person was at. And even if they did know God, it was like, okay, well, is there anything we could pray for you about? And every single time there was always something that they needed to be prayed for and they needed peace about in their life. And so I think that is something that's hard to like figure out, okay, what does this look like in our culture? Because it's different there. But at the same time, God is the same God everywhere. And so it's simple. You can just go up to somebody and ask, like, how can I pray for you? Or how are you doing, maybe? Or just something simple. Or just going up to someone and laying a hand on them and just doing it. Because sometimes people are eager and waiting for somebody to do that. And we just get scared and we're like afraid of what are people going to think of me if I just go up to them and start praying for them, or if I just ask them like, hey, do you know Jesus? Do you want to? Like, it's just something that we think people are going to think I'm weird or creepy or something like that. But I think even though it looks different in Peru, it can definitely happen here. And even though it is a little bit different, at the same time, it's not. Like, you just have to listen to the Holy Spirit. And if he's saying, like, go pray for this person, you just do it. And so that's one thing, I guess, is just boldness. I wanted to take that back with me, even though I knew it wasn't going to look exactly the same. I wanted to keep the boldness and the confidence that I felt like God gave me while I was on the trip.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think for me is like everyone needs Jesus. They're here, but it's the want. Like they wanted Jesus there. I think even here in America, like if you want Jesus, then have him. But again, like she said, people are too scared to step out. People are too scared to even take the receiving of it because they don't want to be judged or they don't want to go through this or that. Like here, they don't want him as much because they got everything else they need in the world, you know? I got my phone. I don't need Jesus. I got this. I'm okay. Like there, they depend on him. They want him so much that it hurts them. And they want to see that breakthrough and they want to see that healing and they want to see that miracle. But here, do they really want it? You know what I mean? And I think that's something that is really just challenging also just for everybody's, because just, you know, there's generation now, honestly, is just so mentally health, like they want the health, like, and it just affects their brains and just everything like that. But it should be easy. Like we should just be able to go up to their door and just knock on them and be like, hey, here's a gift bag. Here's some prayer for you guys, you know? Like, and I think you can do that. Like honestly, I believe we do it. On serve days and even around that, you know, like for Zach, for instance, with outreach, local outreach, like he does stuff every week, you know, and he's going to houses in Arcoma and around nearby that honestly, their houses look worse than the ones in Peru. Like, if we're being honest, like, I went to one, there was a hole in the middle of the floor, and I'm like, man. And he does that weekly, you know? And so there are opportunities out here in Fort Smith. So, yeah, I just pray, like, just seeing the generation that God filled them up with so much faith there. I'm just praying that it comes back here and they're on fire, like you said, and that fire keeps spreading and that light keeps going. And they're not just hiding that light once they come back, you know, that light actually shines and people are attracted to it.
Yeah, I think that's huge. When you think about mission trips, there's so many times. Pastor Darren actually says this all the time, that we go there to help people and change people, but we end up leaving changed ourselves. Sometimes it even takes leaving our literal home to gain a new perspective. Because even like what you're saying, Kylie, a boldness, or Mason, a passion and a fire for more things of God, like you can have those here, but it almost needed us to take that step away and be like, no, like this is my intention. And like what you were saying, Clarence, like just being intentional with realizing there is an importance and a need, a true need for people on mission to spread the gospel and just to love God's people. Like that's what Jesus called each and every single one of us to do. And that looks like sometimes leaving the countries or going right down the street or to your literal neighbor and sharing. Do you guys even feel like a little bit more of like a calling on your own life? Like, oh no, like it is for me to like go and share the gospel, both globally and locally.
I would say I definitely feel like I realized that I was called to do it whenever I was there. And I realized like it's not just a calling to go to Peru. I felt that calling, and that's why I decided, okay, I'm going to go to this trip. But it doesn't like end there, you know? Like Clarence was saying, there's so much opportunity here. There's so many things that we can do here to help. And I think I realized that, and that's what I just really wanted to bring back with me is not to get comfortable here. Because there we were stepping into a new place and it's a little bit uncomfortable at first. You don't know what to expect. But I feel like that almost like fueled me to like, okay, I need to go and do this and like spread the gospel, get things done, go hand these bags out or go help at these medical clinics or whatever I was doing. It almost fueled me, and I realized like the reason sometimes that I'm not doing that here and that I wasn't as on fire for God before the trip was because I was just comfortable with what I've been doing. And I think going to Peru and getting uncomfortable and getting dirty a little bit made me come back here and realize, okay, just because I'm home, I don't need to stay comfortable because there's people that need to hear about Jesus that are like right next door to me. So why am I getting comfortable just because I'm back at home? Like there's still people all around me, probably in my neighborhood, probably down in Arcoma. And he was even telling us when we were having a meeting one time, like, Sierra tells me about these kids in Arcoma. They're going through some crap. And, like, there's stuff there that needs to be done. It's everywhere. People need to know Jesus everywhere. So we get so comfortable, or at least for me, I realized I was so comfortable just because I'm at home, just because this is what I'm used to, that I'm forgetting that there's people around me that need to know Jesus, like, right next to me. And you don't have to go like 2,000, 3,000, however many miles away to like find people that need Jesus. So I don't want to let myself get comfortable anymore. I want to stay uncomfortable because that fueled me to realize like it's uncomfortable when you realize that people don't know Jesus and you're not telling them. That made me uncomfortable. That makes me feel a little ick. Like I'm like, ooh, why am I not telling these people about God? Like I get the ick from myself. I'm like, why am I not doing this? So that's basically my main takeaway was like, I need to stay uncomfortable and I need to remember these people need Jesus everywhere I go, not just like there, but also here.
Yeah. That's the biggest importance, I feel like, when it comes to missions, that it's not just globally or locally, like everyone. Yeah. We need Jesus. Yeah. Like we all do. Yeah. And we're all on mission. You were even speaking about like kind of getting uncomfortable or taking a trip and kind of answering that call. Is there, we have on the dock already for Peru 2024? Like what's the plan?
Yeah, Peru 2024. It's going to be taking off next summer again. We're doing 2 trips, I believe. We're going to do like a level 1, like we just went on. And then we're going to do a level 2, I believe, also with that. We're going to post in the comments the link for that. If you're interested, you can sign up that way, and you get more info as the info comes out. But we do plan on doing more missions each year, going out to Peru. Who knows where else in the future? Because like you said, the gospel's for everyone.
Yeah. And, you know, we kind of plugged it earlier, too. Like, there is, like, even in our own church here at Harvest Time, like, there are plenty of local opportunities. Every Monday, we have a food pantry here on campus that people, like, if you want to just pray with people, like, those are, like, we have regular families that we are helping serve by giving them food that they just need prayer.
Yeah.
Zach tells us all the time that of some situations and people that he meet of people who are just in, like, they just need God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of opportunities. If you have any questions, anyone about some missions, how can I get more involved locally, or taking a global trip to Peru or wherever, give us an email over at moreandbetter@harvesttime.net. But again, thank you all for sharing your experience about Peru. I love seeing the passion and how you all are taking your experiences and saying, like, okay, God's not finished with me yet. Like, there's still work to be done. So again, thanks so much, and we'll see you all next week.